Welcome to Project Designer Tutorials. This is the first project tutorial called My First Project. We're just going to cover the basics of setting up your first project. So let's go ahead and start a new project. Click File, New, and then type in your project dimensions here. I like to do my test carves or demo carves on a 1x6 material, so I set my project up to be accommodating for that size, so about 12 inches long by 5.5 inches wide, which is about the width of a 1x6, and then of course 3/4 inch thick. Hit OK. Then that project board will show up on the screen there. We already did have a project board up, but I wanted to just demonstrate the process of setting up a new project. So the first thing we're going to do is click on the blue shell, the pattern tool, and that opens up our pattern library here. So we've got our favorites folder and then the basic folder. The basic folder is what contains all of the free patterns that come with the CarveWright software, and we're going to go through these folders and pick some elements to work with. I'm going to choose this fleur-de-lis and drop it on the board. Once it's on the board, I can move it around however I want, and then I can use these elements on the side, these kind of dots. We've got red ones that allow you to scale up and down, and that's proportional scaling. And then the yellow ones allow you to stretch or compress an object. And then our green one here allows you to rotate if you want to free rotate. And then we've got our undo tool up here if we want to undo all of that we just did. Now we do want to scale it a little bit. And then we also want to put it in the center. So instead of just trying to visually put it in the center, I can right click, and this brings up that menu. So it's the right mouse button and brings up a menu that gives me an option here to center, and then I can center on both axes. There we go. I also have some centering options up here too, so if I want to turn off one of those axes so I can move it up and down, but it's still locked on this center one there, I can just click one at a time, and I can access them here too. I don't have to go through the right click menu. Okay, so we've got that locked into place and positioned rather nicely. Let's add some other patterns to this board. I'm going to go up here to filigrees, and we're just going to select something nice here. This filigree I like. And we'll drop it on the board here too. It's kind of big and blending in here, obliterating that, so let's scale it down, grabbing that red dot. Let's scale it down, and then let's move it in and tuck it into this filigree. And you can see how it blends in with the pattern, and you can kind of tuck it in there and find a nice arrangement that makes it look well positioned, and the composition looks nice. And then from here we're going to want to mirror this across to this side, so we're going to use another tool called Mirror, and that's also on the right click menu. You go to Mirror, and you can mirror horizontally. Now you can mirror in all these other directions as well, so you can choose any of those, but for this particular one we just want to flip it to the other side there. And of course up here you've got these mirroring options available up here as well, so I can turn off and on many of these. You can see what happens when you mirror it in other directions, what you end up getting. You can mirror it all 4 ways. It's a pretty self-explanatory tool, but it's very nice when you're creating symmetry quickly. It helps you really create dynamic compositions. And then once they are mirrored, they're all connected. So you can move and reposition one, and it'll constantly update the other mirrored piece so that you've got that symmetry constantly maintained. So here is our first composition. Now we can take this out and carve it right away, and this is often what you see at a CarveWright demonstration, where we are just quickly trying to show how to position things on a board and how it works. So we can go ahead and upload this to our memory card, just so we can go over that part of the procedure. Make sure that your memory card programmer is plugged into a USB slot in your computer, and then slot in the memory card into the card reader, and then we're going to go to File, Upload. Okay, and once this menu pops up, it's going to display the other items that are already on your memory card. So here's some other projects that I was carving that are already on there, and then it gives you an option to name this here, which we're going to call this project Fluor Demo, or you can call it My First Carve, or whatever you like. This is mostly just an exercise to get you started, and then we're going to get a little more advanced in the next tutorials. These options here for quality is where you can choose if you want it on draft, normal, best, or optimal, and it gives you a time estimator here. So normal, this project will take about 16.5 minutes. Draft, we can do it in less than 13. Best is going to take it all the way up to 26 plus, and then optimal, you're going to get to an hour on this. So each of these quality settings, what it essentially is doing is changing the speed and the step of the carving process. So the machine is actually going to carve this line by line as it goes down, and like a printer does, and carve this whole piece. And by changing this quality setting here, is going to change the speed with which it does that and how much of a step it takes to the next line on each one of them. So in some cases you might really want to use an optimal if you really need the most finest quality possible carve you can get. I personally will choose best when I want a fine quality carving in wood, and because I'm going to inevitably do some finishing work and sanding myself, but most of the time I will get away with doing almost everything with normal, and that's because I'm going to be sanding and cleaning it up anyways, and with our sanding mops, the sanding is not that big of a process. So a lot of this is going to be determined by quality of wood too, and we can talk about that more when we get into some more advanced projects. So for our demo and starting off purposes, we'll leave it on normal and hit upload.